Hello everyone. Welcome to Divine Debut. Thank you so much for being here. Due to public demand, most of you have asked that I show you in relation to the elections. Now, I wasn't going to go ahead with it because everyone is very touchy about the subject, and that's not what this channel is all about. This channel is about looking at the astrology, analyzing what I think will be important in the astrology. This is my take on the astrology and not my opinion about who's going to win the elections. What's more important to me is looking at what's going on and how both of the candidates, the presidents, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, how they are being affected by the astrology. I do truly believe in astrology. I do believe that it is a mathematical science. It's an ancient means of calculation, calculating how the stars, the sky, the ethers, spirit, God affect our life here in this lifetime. So, as I said, this is not my opinion about who's going to win. And I would say, please come from a place of heart. We know that everyone is under pressure. Both sides of the spectrum are under pressure. These are historical days that we are moving through, everyone. So try to come from a place of love. Try to see the perspective of the other. Remember, we've got the North Node in Gemini. The South Node is in Sagittarius, which means we're shedding old dogmas, old beliefs, old conditioning. Okay, this is a new world that is being transformed. We're moving into a new world. That's why 2020 has been so difficult. I always believe in the light. If we are protected by the light, the darkness cannot overtake. It's the power of the mind. It's the power of the divine. Remember, we're coming from a place of love. This is not a place to be nasty. This channel is not for nasty comments. If you want to be nasty, please click out. We don't want negative comments here. Yes, we don't mind your opinion, but it depends on how you deliver your opinion. That's what is most important. You have to be careful with the way you deliver your comment. All right, this is something that I needed to do because many people have asked for it. I will give you my take on it, and your decision is the most important. What you perceive, what you understand will be the right decision for you. Okay, now I'm not going to go into what the media has been doing, yada yada yada. No, this is the astrology. It's not politics. Okay, so I've got Joe Biden's chart here. First of all, I'm not going to analyze the whole chart because this is going to be such a long reading. I'm going to show you progressed ways to look at a chart, different systems that you could understand, because the planets in a progressed chart, they have already moved. This is a different system and a different way of looking at how someone's astrology has changed, how it will be affected, and so on and so forth. And I'm sorry about the and the pauses because I am analyzing a chart. So, okay, we've got Joe Biden here, born on the 20th of November, 1942. Okay, his birth time is not, I don't believe it's the correct exact birth time, which changes changes many things. That's the the birth time we have. That's the birth time we need to work with. Just, looking at a couple of things that are important, and I will be looking at the transits as well. So let's look at Joe Biden here first of all, and what I will show you further down the track is how the eclipses that we're having, the next couple of eclipses, how they affect their charts, but also because the eclipses are very, very important. And also I will be looking at the 20th of January 2021 inauguration day of the president. Okay, and just looking at that in conjunction with the charts of both of the candidates. And I also will be looking at the 14th of December, which is a solar eclipse. That's the day when, from what I know, that's the day that the president will be announced the results. Nevertheless, I was saying about the birth time. So we've got Joe Biden with Sagittarius rising, so ascendant. We've got his sun in Scorpio. In the 12th house, we've got Venus in Scorpio. Venus is right on the sun, so Venus is combust. She's burnt, which means already in Scorpio, she's a dark Venus. And as I say to all my personal readings as well, Venus in Scorpio is dark, okay? Whether we like it or not, she takes on the energy of Scorpio. Scorpio is hidden, it's dark, it's the occult, it's transformation, it's very sexual. Think, for those of you that are recognized, that are, deal with people that are Scorpio, and I'm not painting a black picture for Scorpio people. Everyone has their good and their bad, so please don't take it personally if you are a Scorpio. I've got a son that is a Scorpio, and I love Scorpio people. I've got a best friend that's a Scorpio now, but we cannot say that all Scorpio people are the same. Here we've got Joe Biden with his sun and his Venus in the 12th house. 12th house is a very dark house. It's the house of fears. It's the house of hospitals, imprisonment. It is, yes, also a very spiritual house. So there's so much in the astrology that we cannot take only one thing. We have to put everything in the mix together and come to a conclusion. Also, Mercury in Scorpio, 12th house. Mercury is communication, right? Mercury is also the trickster. Remember that Mercury is not male or female, it's neutral. Whichever sign it is moving through, it takes on that energy of it. So Mercury in Scorpio, remember what I said, that Mercury goes into the dungeon. It has, as Mercury was retrograding, remember, in Scorpio recently. It retrograded in Scorpio, then ingressed back into Libra. Now it's still moving through Scorpio. And I did say that once, it gets to the 11th degree where it stopped to retrograde, we may have some news coming through. As Mercury is the messenger of the gods, Mercury goes down into Hades. But it can also be the trickster. He's got a very, very strong Mars in Scorpio. His moon is in Taurus at 0 degrees. There's something about the 0 degrees for me. When I see 0 degrees, it sort of sticks out, it stands out for me. And the 0 degree is, it's, the cusp. It's the cusp between Aries, so his moon had just passed Aries and ingressed into Taurus. Now, it's a very strong moon in Taurus. The moon loves to be in Taurus. Okay, so the moon is our emotions, we know, right? It's being very motherly. It's wanting to feel good. Remember, Taurus is the physical body. And it's all about the senses. It's also about values. And it's interesting that we've got a trine here. As you can see, we've got Regulus here at the 29th degree. Regulus is the heart of the line. It's in the constellation of Leo, and it is the heart of the line. Now, what Regulus stands for is kingship. It's rulership. It also can mean that someone gets famous. They climb the ladder of royalty or of fame, whatever it is that they're accomplishing. They can quickly rise up but quickly fall from grace as well. So Regulus here on his North Node in Virgo, again 0 degrees of Virgo. Remember that, of course, North Node is where we're heading to. Virgo is all about the details. It's also about health. And it's of, to be service towards others, to provide a service. That's where he should be. That's where his fate is. He's coming from the Piscean energy here, 0 degrees of Pisces. Remember that the 12th house, where his sun is, it's the natural house of Pisces. Pisces is also an ending of a cycle. It's a major cycle. Remember that Pisces can be unconditional love. It's ruled by Neptune, but it can be confusion, it can be illusion, it can be deception as well. Remember that Neptune it's anything that is not real. It's fantasy. Yes, it's spiritual, but it's also, Neptune rules the media. Mercury rules the media. Neptune is camouflage. It's something not being real. It's escapism. It's not something that's real and tangible. So this is where he's coming from, and North Node, as I said, it's conjunct to Regulus. Now, of course, this can mean kingship, okay? But remember, and I'm going to say that Virgo is not one to be up on stage. Virgo likes to provide from behind the scenes, okay? Virgo is not the lion. Leo likes to be up on stage. Now, we've also got Chiron here, and of course, Regulus is was transiting through Leo in Western astrology, nevertheless, and as when Joe Biden was born, Chiron is also here conjunct. Now, Chiron can be an open wound. It could be psychological, mental, physical wound from the past. Remember that Chiron was the centaur, that weird being in the past, in mythology, in the way, way past. In mythology, Chiron was the wounded healer. He was wounded by his own family. He had an open wound which he had to heal. He had to learn. He became a healer through trying to heal his own wounds. So this is an open wound. It can have to do with our childhood conditioning. It can have to do also with a spiritual means of healing. And of course, it's conjunct his North Node. What I see, whatever comes close to the nodes is amplified by 10. So Regulus is amplified here, yes, but we've also got the open wound here, right? So, as I said, I'm not going to be analyzing every single thing in the chart because this will be way too long, this video. So, I'm going to just open, he's got his midheaven in Virgo as well. So, again, being of service to others, right? And, of course, his IC is in Pisces here. So the IC is the door to his home, to his country, to what makes him feel safe and secure. Anyway, let's look at Donald Trump now. Okay, this is the chart of Donald Trump, born on the 14th of June, 1946. We've got a precise time here, 10:54, that's what it looks like. So we've got rising in Leo, at the 29th degree, which is a critical degree, and on his rising is Regulus. Now remember that the rising is where the sun was rising as he was born. So the sun was rising very, very close to Regulus. There's a very small difference here. And remember what I said about Regulus being the heart of the lion. So he comes across to people, the rising comes across as a Leo. That's how people see him. Now, Leo is a king, right? Leo likes to shine. They want to perform up on stage. Leo is a fire sign. Now, Joe Biden is a Sagittarius rising, but as I said, we're not certain about his birth time. Both are fire signs. Sagittarius is all about philosophy, the law, the truth. What is the truth? But Sagittarius is also, remember, our beliefs, what we believe, our conditioning, etc., etc. Leo is creation. Leo is generosity. It's creating something and giving it to the world, being generous with it. It's also a risk taker. And it's got to do a lot with creating something. Remember, it's the house of children as well. We've got Moon in Sagittarius, okay, right on his south node as the sun is in Gemini. So Donald Trump was born on a full moon. That's when the sun and the moon obviously are close to the nodes. This is a full moon as the moon is right across the sun. And Uranus is in the picture as well. Uranus, remember, rules Aquarius. Aquarius is futuristic, it's eccentric, it's weird, it's wonky, it's doing things in a totally radical way than what they've been done. Uranus can mean, I see Uranus as the tower, but it's also very scientific. Remember that Uranus is very spiritual, it's the ethers, it's spirit, period. So that's why, I mean, his north node being in Gemini, sun in Gemini, Gemini, remember, is where the north node is now, and it's roughly here. So transiting north node is right on his sun and his north node. I will show you with the transits nevertheless. So also his sun is placed in the 10th house. 10th house is the house of career. It's the house of our goals, our aspirations. 10th house is the house of leaders. Remember, it's naturally ruled by Capricorn. It's also our status, how we are seen out in the world. So very strong position when we've got the house, the sun in our 10th house. So his goals, his north node is in Gemini. Gemini is also, it's got to do with the media, communication, collaboration, working with our close environment. It's got a lot to do. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So therefore, obviously, whatever is going on with Mercury is very important for Gemini people, for Trump in this situation here. So we know that Mercury has just moved direct recently. It's been retrograding in Scorpio and Libra, and it's visited Hades, Pluto. It's gone into the underworld. Mercury is also the media, remember. So there's a lot happening in the world where truth, the media is concerned. So it's, as I said, Mercury is going to give us the information. We are going to learn about things that have been hidden, tried to be hidden, things that need to transform will be communicated. And just looking at what Donald Trump has got in his 12th house, he's got his Mars in Leo. It's very close to Regulus, again, the heart of the lion. We've also got, he's got Pluto in Leo. Remember that Pluto rules the generations. It's got to do with, Pluto can mean wealth, but it can also mean populations. Okay, and it means transformation as well. Remember that Pluto in Leo. Leo is the lion, it's generosity of spirit. But Pluto being in also in a 12th house. 12th house means endings and some form of a transformation needing to come through. Remember that Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun is clarity, it's healing, it's positivity, it's the ego. It rules the ego. So there is strength. We've got a very strong strength of character here, I feel, in Donald Trump, even though he does things that are radical, unexpected, etc., etc. Remember, he's a personality. He's someone that was born on a full moon, on an eclipse, which is a full moon. It's a lunar eclipse, so lunar eclipse is something eclipsed out of our life. It's also what happens is that it's an amplified full moon, as the moon is things that are dark, which are shown through the light of the sun that's reflecting its light through the moon. So things that were hidden should come to light. And we do have his fate, his karma. His karma is to shine into the darkness and do things in a different way, and in a very scientific, very spiritual way, very eccentric and very futuristic way. Remember that Uranus is also the internet, okay? The internet, and Uranus is also the ethers. It's having that 2020 vision. There's strong intelligence in Uranus. But we've got Gemini, which is the student as well. And right across, we've got, again, Sagittarius is spiritual. But remember that the South Node, now transiting South Node, is right on Donald Trump's South Node. So he's having his nodal return. And nodal return is like a brand new chapter. A brand new chapter for him, which is starting now. Let's have a quick look at the transits. So what's, just to show you where the transiting nodes, look at this here, everyone. I mean, the North Node is right on his North Node, on his Sun. Okay? And South Node, obviously, as well. And interesting that the Moon is right on his natal Moon as well. Just looking at the power players here, I mean, what's going on here with a Capricorn? As you can see, we've got Trump's vertex right on Jupiter, right on Pluto. Now, vertex it's where the prime vertical intersects with the ecliptic in the West. So what that means is the vertex. It's a representation of an opening and closing of doors in our lives, where important fated connections come to be, or there's people entering or exiting our life. I call it Destiny's Gate. It's called Destiny's Gate. So it's like that number 11, which I say is a door opening or a door closing. So these big power players they're connecting to Donald Trump's vertex in the 5th house, which is, the 5th house is the natural house of Leo. Remember, it represents children, creation, risk-taking, generosity, and fun. It's also the house of gambling. It's a big risk. It's a big gamble. What's going on with, we know that Jupiter and Saturn will be moving out of his 5th house and moving into his 6th house, which is the house of our daily routine. Okay, so it's work. That's where Jupiter and Saturn will be moving in December. Now, as you can see here, I mean, the Regulus has moved into the sign of Virgo at 0 degrees. It's still on his rising. Okay. Just looking to see if there's anything else that's really important here that I want to show you. Just looking at the midheaven of Donald Trump. It's at 24 degrees of Taurus. So therefore, the cusp of his 4th house is 24 Scorpio, which the sun is transiting through his 4th house. 4th house is not only our home, not only has to do with the past, but it also has to do with our country, our home. Okay, so and Mercury soon will be entering his 4th house. As Mercury is now at 8 degrees, as I said, once it hits the 11th degree, that'll be interesting because it's transiting his 3rd house of communication, collaboration, working with people that are close to his periphery, etc. And remember, 3rd house is also the media. So, and look at this here. I mean, Uranus is right across. So Uranus and Mercury are in opposition, which means this is like an opposition of Uranus, which is the tower. Remember, moving through Taurus, it's all about radical changes, things being shown from the ethers, sudden changes where values are concerned. Remember, Taurus is also a money house, so it's sudden fluctuations where money values are concerned, but it's also got to do with the law. It's the 9th house, the 9th house of truth. So is it Mercury which is going to communicate the truth? There is an opposition of Mercury and Uranus. Mercury is the left brain. Uranus is the right brain. It's our higher self. Mercury is the left logical thinking part of the brain. And we've got Mercury in Scorpio. Remember, Mercury goes deep. Okay, so whatever will be communicated, this could be shocking news coming through, shocking news that will be on, the media. Okay, this could be important conversations that are bringing truth to the fore. So let's leave this here now. Just going back to Joe Biden for a second. Okay, looking at Joe Biden with the transiting planets on the outside, as you can see here. These big power players are in his 2nd house. 2nd house, remember, is the house of values. It's what we own. It's the physical body. And this is where some form of a transformation is going to take place. Remember that Joe Biden's moon is in Taurus, so that's therefore the house of Taurus is important to see about what's going on with Joe Biden's emotions, his emotional self. Okay, so let's see. The cusp of Taurus is here. It's the 6th house. Okay. So 6th house has got to do with work. It's our daily routine. It's our health. And it's interesting to see that Uranus, transiting Uranus, is heading towards his 6th house. Uranus can be very stressful as it rules the nervous system. Okay, and remember that in Taurus it's very fluctuating, can be a very, very stressful time for him where creation is concerned. Uranus is in his 5th, but Uranus in the 5th, again, the 5th is the house of creation. It's the house of generosity. It's also the house of fun. I don't think that Joe Biden is having a lot of fun at this time. And Uranus is right on his Paths of Fortune. Paths of Fortune is like the Wheel of Fortune. You could see it in that way, where again, it's a very important aspect in the chart. So where his luck is concerned, his spiritual self, his higher self is concerned, because Paths of Fortune is a moment of joy, let's say, and luck. I feel that he's going through a lot of stress at this time as Uranus is retrograding, coming back closer to his Paths of Fortune. Now the sun is, it's almost his birthday, so we should wish him a happy birthday, right? The sun is at 25. Remember that his sun is in the 12th house. 12th house can mean endings. It could also mean a feeling of imprisonment, a moment of darkness. Remember that 12th house can also mean endings. Even though, you know, when we have our solar return, it's usually a very positive time, especially when the sun moves over our rising. Logically, it's very positive. Now in about a week, the sun will be moving over his rising, which will be positive for him. So therefore, around the 22nd of November could be maybe some good news for him. But let's see what else is going on. I mean, check this out, everyone. We've got Jupiter is right opposite, transiting Jupiter is right opposite his natal Jupiter. So this is an opposition, okay? This is in opposition. And it's not only Jupiter. I mean, Saturn has moved over his Jupiter as well. And an opposition is a tug of war. It's not easy. Not easy at all. Interesting that Hygeia, which means health, he's having his return on his natal Hygeia here, which Hygeia, remember, it's very mercurial, so it can speak of health, it can speak of truth, okay? It is in the 9th house. 9th house is the house of truth, it's the house of law, it's the house of the philosopher, it's the house of other cultures, people that are at a distance. And remember that the 9th house is also, it's naturally ruled by Jupiter. So therefore an opposition here with Jupiter, it's very important for him. It's not easy, not easy. Now, looking at where the nodes are, so transiting nodes, we've got North Node in the house of others, South Node in the house of the personal. This is a personal house. The first house is, remember, how we're seen through, how we're seen from others, because the first house cusp is I, me, my. It's naturally ruled by Aries. So having the South Node here and having Sagittarius, he's got to drop any things to do with his personalized issues, his personal issues, I should say, and where his beliefs and his dogmas are concerned, and anything to do with the past, anything from the past, which is also karmic. Remember, the nodes are very karmic. Okay, so interesting that we've also got Chiron in his 4th house. Chiron, which is that open wound, and because he's a potential leader, Chiron transiting his 4th house, his country, means that this is the open wound here that he needs to heal. Now, it's interesting that Neptune, which can mean deception, it's the media as well. Remember, it's transiting his 3rd house, is knocking on the door to his 4th house. Neptune, Poseidon in mythology. is, it can mean deception, it can mean illusion, it can be a form of escapism, but it can also mean being able to connect to spirit, right? Remember again, Neptune in Pisces. Pisces is the ending of a major cycle. Now, Mars has moved direct in his fourth. Again, so Mars being direct in Aries can be, getting the ball rolling, but also Aries is I, me, my, it's the warrior. Okay, it's the warrior spirit. But Mars, and I will show you, will be in a difficult sort of a position. Will be connecting to Uranus on Inauguration Day, and that's going to be a little bit threatening for everyone, not only for one person or the other. So I think that that's important where the transits are concerned. One last thing, Uranus for Joe Biden is on his descendant. And remember that Uranus can mean, it's like the tower. So a major shift, revolution, new beginnings, a left-hand turn, a sudden left-hand turn, and descendant is the second part. It's past middle age. It's as the sun is descending in our life, but it's in his sixth house of work and health. Okay, so that's important to look at as well. All right. Okay, so we've got the progress chart of Joe Biden. So on the outside, and as you can see here, we've got South Node, his progressed South Node, which is trining his midheaven. So it's the South Node, though. It's not the North Node. South Node is what we should be shedding. So the midheaven is our career. Okay, it's the door to our goals, our aspirations. Also, Black Moon Lilith, which is not an easy energy, is right on his midheaven. Black Moon Lilith can be very stressful. It's someone acting totally out of character. It can be quite scary, as I've seen people going through Black Moon Lilith transits where they've done things that are totally unexplainable. And therefore, his progressed North Node is sextiling, and sextiles are not as strong as a trine. Okay, so what we want, what is more positive, is a trine. A sextile means that you've got to do the work. Okay, the energy is there for the taking, the help is there, but do you act upon it? That's the question. Now, interesting that we've got his North Node, his progressed North Node in Scorpio, and it's conjunct his Mercury, his natal Mercury. Very interesting. Something fated to do with communication, social media. Remember, Mercury in Scorpio can be quite dark. Also, his progressed Chiron is at 18, so it's coming up to Mercury. It's conjunct Mercury. So also Uranus is at the top of his chart. Uranus, which is his progressed Uranus. And his progressed Uranus in the sign of Leo is square. It's actually square his Mercury, his natal Mercury, as you can see here. So this is a square, not easy at all. Okay. Also, his progressed Saturn is at 29. We know Saturn can be very karmic. It's the lord of karma and timing. It can also be a block. Saturn is at 29 at the critical degree of 29 degrees, and it's square his natal Sun. Look at that. And his Sun, of course, is conjunct Venus. Okay, so it's squaring his Venus as well. So that's difficult. Remember that squares it's like turning a corner. Now, I take more into account the conjunctions, more strongly. Even though, yes, we've got his progressed paths of fortune on Jupiter. Remember, his natal Jupiter is retrograde, which means Jupiter's expansion. It's very spiritual. It's like the Wheel of Fortune, right? It's also got to do with legalities, remember. So having a natal Jupiter that is retrograde means in a past lifetime, he has not closed up this chapter of lessons. So something that he needed to learn, because Jupiter is also a teacher. Jupiter also rules his ascendant. So it's very important. Paths of fortune is right on his Jupiter, his retrograde Jupiter. And remember that on another, with the transits, he's going through his Jupiter opposition. So, and this is all happening in his 8th, which is the house of money from other sources, death and transformation. Okay. It's also the house of the occult. And interesting that he's got his Jupiter in Cancer. Cancer is also it's the natural house of our home. It's how we feel safe and secure. It's also our home country. Also, what I didn't show you is his progressed Saturn is at 29 Leo. Okay, now Saturn can be a block. Remember that Saturn is conjunct Regulus here and his North Node, as well as his Chiron, obviously here. And remember that the 9th house is the house of truth. Now, Saturn can mean karma. It can mean, someone who's had to grow up quickly, stand strong in their integrity. Remember that the 29th degree is a very critical degree. And Saturn is also a teacher, okay? It's a strict teacher. So having Saturn in Leo, remember that Leo is all about the light. It's ruled by the sun, whereas Saturn, which is integrity, Saturn can also be the darkness, because Kronos used to eat his own children. Remember that he's very karmic. Yes, he can give the rewards once someone has been standing strong, being truthful, being integral with what they're doing. Remember that the ninth house is, it's spiritual, it's truth, it's the law. The ninth house is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter can also mean legalities. Interesting, right? Okay, everyone, so what I've done now is I've put Joe Biden's progressed chart here for the date, the 30th of November, which is going to be a lunar eclipse, as you can see here. Okay, so a lunar eclipse, of course, is the sun opposite the moon. Interesting that we've got the sun right on his midheaven, which is, remember that the sun shines its light onto the moon, okay, to bring in things that are hidden. That's why a lunar eclipse, it's a full moon and it's amplified by 10. Interesting that we've got the moon, which will be receiving the light from the sun. So things will be shown. Remember that a lunar eclipse means it's a full moon, so therefore it's an ending. And where is this eclipse especially hitting him? I mean, it's on his MC and IC. So it's on his door to his career, as well as his door to his country. And the moon, which is, it's in Gemini. It's a full moon, which means endings. The full moon here, the eclipse, is knocking on his 4th house, which is not a good sign for him. Okay, so let's see what's going on with Jupiter here. So Jupiter and Saturn in his 11th house. okay, in Aquarius. They're heading towards his Mars, okay, his Mars and his Mercury. So in the 11th house and 12th house. So on the lunar eclipse, Saturn, Jupiter are heading towards his natal, his progressed Mars and his progressed 12th house. So remember that Saturn can mean restrictions, limitations. It can speak of rewards, but it can also be, it's very heavy. Saturn is very heavy in Capricorn. They will be moving into his 12th house, remember. His 12th house, which the 12th house again speaks of endings. Okay, so also North Node and Chiron, his progressed North Node and Chiron, right here in his 9th house. Ninth house is the house of truth. Okay, it's the house of truth, and again, he's got his North Node in Scorpio. Scorpio, which means things that were hidden, things that he needs to transform. Excuse me. Let's have a look at where Uranus is. So Uranus on his descendant. In his progress, Uranus is on the descendant in the sign of Leo. Remember that Leo is kingship, and Uranus on your descendant, that means a sudden change, something happening out of the blue. Okay. And this could also be because remember that Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun means clarity. Clarity, and this could also be social media, things to do with communication, the ethers, that 2020 vision. It's very scientific, Uranus is, but it also it can wreak havoc, remember. Now, his north and south nodes, his south node is at 19 of Taurus, as you can see here, and this is in a semi-square to the transiting north node. Check this out. We've got south node at 19 and transiting through his third house of communication, collaboration, media, and it's in a tight aspect, difficult aspect to transiting north node, which is transiting through his fourth, if we look at it through this system, and it's exact. Fourth house, remember, the house of home, the house of my country. And so also his progressed north node is right opposite at 19, okay, and it's connected in a weird aspect to transiting north node, as you could see here. It's not an opposition. Something needs tweaking here. Okay, I've added now the solar eclipse on the 14th of December, as you can see right here. And a solar eclipse, this is going to be a total solar eclipse, which means it's a new beginning, it's a new moon, amplified by 10. Venus is right on his midheaven, which Venus on the midheaven is very good, obviously. Venus in Scorpio again. So there is a new beginning in his 10th house of career. Remember that a new moon is the moon and the sun together. It's at 23 degrees now. 23 degree it speaks to me very importantly, but nevertheless, that degree I want to say. And interesting, that Pluto is at 23 here, so there's a difficult connection here in this new moon and in connection with transiting Pluto. But nevertheless, with this solar eclipse, we've got the South Node. Okay, this solar eclipse is happening on the South Node, okay, which is in Sagittarius. So South Node has got to do with something that we need to shed, something that we need to drop. Now, we've got Biden's Neptune conjunct this solar eclipse. We've also got transiting Mercury in conjunction with this solar eclipse. So whatever comes close to the nodes, remember it's very fated. And it is, I mean, the North Node, transiting North Node is in his 4th house, which is home, our security, etc., and so forth. But this total solar eclipse, which is a new beginning, it's connected to the South Node, right? So it's got to do with past karma, right? Neptune can speak of spirituality, it can also speak of deception. It can speak of the media as well, things not being as they seem, as they truly are. Remember that a solar eclipse, the sun, the light of the sun is going to be eclipsed, and then the sun comes back, the light comes back on. So we're going to see what is going to begin, as a new moon is also always a beginning, but obviously we're going to see also what was hidden. Okay, so that's hitting him in his 10th house. Interesting. Okay, here is the chart. Let's go back to Donald Trump. Okay, here is Donald Trump's birth chart. Okay, that's on the inside, and on the outside is his progressed chart. So what do we see here, everyone? We've got Donald Trump's rising is at 2955. What do we have here? As you could see, as I said, his rising is right on Regulus, which is the heart of the lion. Now, Uranus, his progressed Uranus is at 2905. So it's in his 12th, it's conjunct his rising, which, remember that rising is how we're seen out in the world. It's also our physical body. It's our personal house, okay? Uranus comes through from the 12th house. This is a sudden revelation, as Uranus will be jumping over his rising very soon, and bringing in something eccentric, something radical, something unexpected. Remember that Uranus is that left-hand turn. Uranus is also the ethers. It's very progressive. It's futuristic. And remember that, especially in a progress chart, when a planet changes sign, it's very, very important. It changes the whole energy of the chart. So Uranus is on his rising. His progress North Node is on his rising. Okay, rising is me, opposed to others. My North Node, my goal, my fate, in comparison to others. Remember, South Node is in his 7th, which is other people. South Node is shedding something, shedding the past, shedding the karma to do with collaborations, other people that are opposing me. So that is, I mean, this is huge. This is not something to be taken lightly at all. Okay, at all. And also, his progressed Uranus is in trine to his progressed Jupiter. Check this out. This is the biggest thing that shows me the most important information. There it is, which shows me that his progressed Jupiter is at 28, almost at 29. This is a trine which you cannot move past. This is one of the most important details which to me show that he's got the stronger chart for presidency. Whether we like it or not, these are the details. We have to take them into account. Let's see how they pan out. Remember that his progressed Jupiter is in his fourth house of my country, my home, my security. He's got the wounded healer here, 26 Sag. Right in between here is the galactic center. 27 Sag is the galactic center. Having his Jupiter and his Chiron, remember that Chiron it's an open wound. It's also very spiritual, as is Jupiter, and they're right on the galactic center. And his Juno is how I nurture, how I love, how I'm nurtured and loved from my own people, my tribe, the people in my family, the people in my country. There is a trine here. And this is something that is huge. Okay. His progressed nodes are on his ascendant and descendant, another very, very important factor. Now I've added, actually, not the solar eclipse, the full moon, the lunar eclipse on the 30th of November. And this is, again, when the sun and moon are opposite. They're not really touching on his natal chart, but they're in the areas of his home and his career. So something will be shown, something that was hidden, something that is ending in his area of career. Okay, of course, the sun is very close to his Black Moon Lilith. And Black Moon Lilith, remember, in mythology, she wanted equality, she wanted a fairness and justice, and she acted upon finding that. So it's not it's a stressful moment here, but we do have the sun bringing the light onto what this darkness is all about. Okay, and again, it's happening in his fourth. And remember, fourth house has got to do with the past, with his country, with his home. Okay, so interesting as well. Also, on the 30th, Mercury has moved into his fourth house. Mercury, remember, which is transiting through Scorpio. And therefore, this could be saying that Mercury in Scorpio could be bringing in information which will bring some form of a change. Remember that Mercury will be touching on his south node and his moon. So he will need to shed something to do with deception, something to do with his emotional security, and maybe even something to do with his fears, because the moon, especially on the south node, can have to do with emotional fears to do with the past. Okay, and of course Pluto is right on his vertex here. Okay, here we have the 14th of December. Remember that I said on the 14th of December, that's logically the day that we'll have an announcement of who is going to be, who's going to win these elections. And it's incredible that this decision will be deemed on the day of the total solar eclipse, which is a brand new beginning in the, it's a new moon happening, amplified, it's an eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. There's that 23 degree, which 23 on the hour clock is an 11. I have to mention that. And this new beginning will be happening for Donald Trump in his fourth house of his country, his home, anything to do with what makes him feel safe and secure. And it's interesting that his the nodes, remember, he's having his nodal return. So His moon is here, so obviously his moon is in the mix as well. Interesting. Remember, he was born on an eclipse. So he's having his nodal return. He was born on a full moon lunar eclipse, which a lunar eclipse is all about endings to make space for something new. This is a new moon, which is happening in his fourth house, everyone. And it's happening at 23. So again, where Pluto is concerned, it's pressurized because it's a difficult connection here. It's a semi-sextile, which is not easy. It's not easy, okay? So obviously, again, this new moon will be opposite to his North Node, okay? So there is a sense of opposition here. And opposition means there is a tug of war. You have to learn to work with both energies. So the past with the future. Remember, the nodes are here. So what this is saying to me, because he was born on a lunar eclipse and we've got a new moon here, it's like a flip-flop sort of an energy where things will be turned upside down. That's how I read this. Now also, we've got Black Moon Lilith on his midheaven during this announcement. Again, it's at 23 degrees, 23 of Taurus. So obviously it's not easy flowing energy because what is opposite Sag here is Gemini. So something needs tweaking here. Remember that Black Moon Lilith, she wanted equality. And it can be a very stressful time here as well because Black Moon Lilith transiting Taurus. Taurus has got to do with money. It's got to do with values. It's the five senses. And it's a time of much tension, much tension. Remember, because Black Moon Lilith is right opposite here, Scorpio. Okay, Taurus is right across Scorpio, and Scorpio speaks of transformation. Remember that his IC is at 24. So Black Moon Lilith is in opposition to his fourth house. Well, she's actually transiting his third, but she's knocking on the door to his fourth. So, wow. Just coming back to Donald Trump's progressed chart, as you can see here, so the outer wheel is his progressed planets. So we've got his Jupiter at 24 degrees right on his vertex, and it's trine to his midheaven. Look at the degrees, and this is on the day of the announcement of the next president. Very interesting indeed. We've also got Uranus, his progressed Uranus at 26, so it's very close to his sun still, and it is in his 10th house again. So there is a lot going on. Even his moon, I mean, his moon is transiting through, his progressed moon is in Taurus, and we know that the moon loves being in Taurus. So there are so many things that are showing that this person, this candidate, is someone that is very helped through the stars, through the transits. As we could see here also, I mean, Jupiter is in sextile to his, to the cusp of his fourth house. So that's a lot of positivity indeed. There's so much more that I could be calculating and looking at here, but it's already, I think I've done a lot of explaining here. So that's going to be a very important day, the 14th of December, that solar eclipse. Also, we must not forget that this new moon solar eclipse, this total solar eclipse, is in opposition to his sun, to his Uranus, and to his North Node. So there's opposing forces here, yes. And it's not easy. Remember that Uranus is sudden, it's radical. This could mean that suddenly there is opposition, but what is the opposition? It could have to do with truth. Remember that Uranus is having that 2020 vision. And then the North Node transiting North Node in Gemini and a South Node in Sagittarius, it's all about communicating truthfully, seeing the other person's point of view. And of course, 10th and 4th house, his career as well as his home. Okay, very, very powerful having this solar eclipse on the day of the announcement of the new president. Okay, so let's have a look at the 20th of January of 2021, Inauguration Day of the President. Okay, it's not going to be an easy day at all. We've got Mars conjunct Uranus exact, okay, in the sign of Taurus. Okay, remember that Taurus is all about values. Taurus is what we own, what makes us feel good. Taurus is ruled by Venus, so therefore it's all about feeling good. I don't feel that there is a feel-good energy here. Remember that Uranus transiting through Taurus can also be fluctuations where the stock markets are concerned. Okay, we have on this day, we have Jupiter transiting through Aquarius. Jupiter and Saturn are together, conjunct in the sign of Aquarius. Remember that it's much lighter, the energy. The sun is at 0 Aquarius as well, so it does speak of we're moving into the age of Aquarius, as we've been talking about for a long time. Okay, the nodes are still at 19, which do contend with the chart of Donald Trump. Okay, what I like about this is that Jupiter is in a beautiful trine to the North Node. So Jupiter speaks of the truth. It speaks of expansion, growth. Jupiter is also very spiritual. Okay, it's the king of the gods. It's in the ethers in Aquarius, which is speaking truth. And together with, in conjunction with Saturn here, Saturn, remember that they're both teachers. Saturn can speak of having done the hard work and therefore coming into like what we've karmically worked towards, we will be receiving. Okay, I do feel that Saturn in between, sandwiched between the Sun and Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, I do feel that this is more about the light, more so than the darkness. Okay, but this does worry me a little bit, as we know that Mars and Uranus conjunct can be very explosive. This could be also freaky weather. Remember that Taurus is the earth. It can be freaky weather. It can be stress, accidents, explosions, anything to do with flight travel as well. Just remembering back to when we had Uranus-Mars conjunct again on the 15th of April in 2019, that was the fire of Notre Dame. Remember the damage with Notre Dame, the cathedral, having been damaged, that we were having a transit like this then. So I do hope that nothing like that happens, but it's difficult energies. So another thing that's going on here is, let's look at Neptune. Neptune is, it can be illusion, disillusion, it can be the media, whatever this is. I mean, Neptune is in square to both the nodes. Okay, this can mean lies, fraud, disappointments, truth, truth being told, lies being uncovered. Okay, because remember that the nodes here in Gemini and Sagittarius, they're this is the axis of communication, the media, and truth. So something can be shown to us, something will be shown to us. Okay, I think that I have shown you what's important for this date, the date of the inauguration of the president. Okay, so looking at Donald Trump on the 20th of January, his progress chart on that day of the announcement. Okay, his progress chart is in the middle here, and on the outside are the transits. And what we could see here is what stood out most to me, everyone, is the 11 degrees rising, 11 degrees of Scorpio. Remember where Mercury, which is the media, it's communication, he's the messenger of the gods. Remember where Mercury stopped, stationed, and started to turn retrograde? And I've been talking about the 11th degree of Scorpio for a while, and this just, how can you, wow. I mean, this is crazy. Now, Jupiter has moved into his 4th house, okay? Saturn is knocking on the door. Remember that both Jupiter and Saturn are now in Aquarius, okay? We've also got here the explosive energy here with Uranus conjunct Mars. They're transiting his 6th house of work. We've also got Pars, his progressed Pars of Fortune on his descendant, which means luck, but through difficulty. Remember, we've also got Black Moon Lilith here. And Uranus is heading towards his descendant. Uranus is now moving direct. If you've noticed here, there are no retrogrades. There are no retrogrades in the planets here. Okay, now Regulus, his progressed Regulus is at 2904. His progressed Uranus is at 2916, so they are still conjunct. There's that transiting Pars of Fortune, which has just passed over Mercury in the 11th. Remember, Pars of Fortune is in Virgo. Virgo is the sign of being of service. Remember, the Mercury is in Virgo, very strong. His Mercury, which Mercury rules him because he's a Gemini sun. Whatever is going on with Mercury, his communication skills to do with groups and associations where he does his business, who he does his business with, is very strong at this point here. Interesting that we've got his progressed Saturn is at 5 degrees in the 11th house of groups and associations, his wishes and dreams, and it is transiting Libra. Libra is the house of balance and harmony. It is in opposition to his Chiron right here. So remember that these are cardinal energies. Chiron is also on his vertex. So transiting Chiron is at 5 degrees, moving direct in the sign of Aries. Aries is the risk taker. It's the cardinal energy. It's I, me, my. I'm willing to take that risk and bring in the healing through, I'm going to say 5th house matters, generosity, being up on stage, not being frightened of I'm not scared to show myself. Okay, and this is Destiny's Gate opening where healing could take place for Trump, or, the healing of that open wound. Now, things to do with, look at this, Black Moon Lilith is in a square to Hygeia. Okay, in a square. Square is tension. Remember that Hygeia speaks of health. The health, how we feel mentally healthy, psychologically healthy, can have to do with physical health as well. And remember that it's very close to his midheaven. So it can have to do with anything around the coronavirus as well as Black Moon Lilith. Remember, Black Moon Lilith is tough energy. It's psychologically someone that needs to retaliate, to react, to bring in the balance and the harmony. As in mythology, Black Moon Lilith's children were being taken away from her as she was giving birth to them, and they were being killed. So it's not an easy energy at all. So that's what's going on with Donald Trump and the date of the inauguration of the president. Okay, so we've got Joe Biden here now, his progress chart for the 20th of January, 2021. Just wanting to see how the transits will be affecting his progress chart. So what I see is here with Uranus and Mars, remember this is explosive energy, can be very difficult in his third house to do with the media, communication, collaboration, people that are close to his periphery, third house, siblings, neighbors. And it is the house of media, right? So it's the house of also the student, third house. Now what we see here right opposite, because what I could see is his south node, of course, is right opposite his north node, and his north node is conjunct Chiron, that open wound. We've got the vertex here at 17 Scorpio, so we've got to do with scorpionic matters again. What's very, very interesting here is his Uranus. His progress Uranus is at 22 Leo. It's opposite his rising, exact, and it's on his descendant, which it's on his, it's in his 6th house, ready to jump into his 7th house. Okay, it's at 22 degrees. And it's, remember also that Uranus is in opposition to his progressed Venus. And Uranus is right opposite. His progressed Uranus is fairly close to being opposite to Mercury. Remember that opposition that I spoke about that's happening now as I'm doing this reading? We've got Uranus and Mercury opposing each other. So that's a bit of a juxtaposition. It's like a tug of war. What is true? What is logic? What is the high mind? Is there good communication here? Because remember that Uranus is, I'm going to rebel. If there has been truth, there hasn't been any truth, I'm going to rebel. Uranus is in Leo. Remember, Leo is the king. And Leo is generosity. It's the ego. So this can be also a very stressful challenge here for Joe Biden, especially being in his 6th house. Remember, Uranus rules the nervous system, because Leo can also speak of having taken a risk, wanting to create something. Now, Black Moon Lilith is transiting his 7th house of others as well. And it's right opposite Neptune, transiting Neptune. So me and the others, me versus the other people. Black Moon Lilith is not easy to deal with. Okay, so we do have some helpful energies, I must admit here. We've got his progressed Jupiter in Libra in the 8th house, which is the natural house of Scorpio, trining over to his Sun in the 12th house in Aquarius. That is helpful energy. We've got to admit that. And we've also got Jupiter conjunct his Mercury in the 12th house. So transiting Jupiter is coming up to his progressed Mercury in the sign of Aquarius. Okay, so the logic and the mind, and we've got the Sun right on his Mars. Remember, Mars is taking on the energy of what rules Aquarius? It's Uranus, it's also Saturn. So this is like fire and air together. It can be quite explosive. As you know, I'm seeing the Sun transiting Sun is at 0 degrees. that 0 degrees really does something. It really speaks very strongly to me, as remember that the 0 degrees is between, the sun's between the Aquarian energy and the Capricorn energy, and the 29th degree of Capricorn is a very critical degree, which Saturn and Jupiter have already moved over around the 20th of December, right? Very important time. I truly believe that at that point, around the 20th, 23rd, 1st of December, I truly believe that we're moving into the age of Aquarius. It's the beginning. People are talking about it. It's all over the news. And what is Aquarius? Aquarius is the future. It's scientific. It's the ethers. It's having that 2020 vision. And it's also humanity. I truly believe that whatever is going to happen in 2021 will be for the good of humanity. Okay, so we have the chart of the US here. We've got a sun in Cancer at 13 degrees. We have Moon in Aquarius at 27, and we have rising Sagittarius. Okay, so we usually look at the ruling. What rules Sagittarius is Jupiter. So what's going on with Jupiter in the sky? What's going on as we've got Moon in Aquarius? What's going on with Uranus? I mean, Uranus has been mentioned so much in this analysis. We cannot deny that Uranus is in the picture very strongly. We are talking about the future. Let's just have a look quickly at the transits of the 20th of January 2021. What's going on here? What's going on here? As you could see, I mean, Jupiter and Saturn are conjunct the south node of the US, okay? And we know that the south node speaks of karma. It speaks of, you know, shedding that old, the karmic old story. So this is a sense of a rebirth for the US, obviously. We've also got Pluto at 24, so the US is having its Pluto return in a couple of years, so it's a big thing. And we know that transformation doesn't happen from one day to the other. It takes time. Okay, so we've also got what is going on here in the transiting planets. They're in the area of the fifth house. What's fifth house? It's what we create, right? It's generosity, children, risk-taking. It's remember that the fifth house is naturally ruled by the sun, and the sun is, it's the king, it's the leader. It's also the ego, which may be repressed here. If there is repressed ego, we can have difficult things going on in the world, right? North Node is on Mars, so something fated will be happening where Mars is concerned. So Mars is our vitality. It's that warrior spirit. Remember, Mars is fire. It's fire, and I'm, you know, if I don't get the truth because I'm in between two worlds, Gemini could be a difficult decision, right? It can also mean things to do with communication. Again, the media. So that's what I wanted to show you mainly. Now, midheaven of the US is at 1 degree of Libra. So we have to look at Venus. What's going on? Where is Venus? Venus is ready to move into the second house, which is the house of values. Venus can mean love, money, remember? But and all things good. Now Venus will be moving into the US's second house. As I said, values, money, what makes me feel comfortable. Okay, Venus in Capricorn is quite strict, so she does prefer not to be in Capricorn. She's not strong there. But remember also that Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, so the hard work needs to be done where money, values, and anything that we love is concerned. Okay, as the brigade here is transiting through the second house. Remember that second house is what I earn. The eighth house is money that comes from other sources. So having Venus slowly move into its second house is a positive thing. Okay, so the IC is at 1 degree of Aries, and remember, Aries is cardinal. It's I want to take action. I'm the warrior. I want to plant that seed. That's what's going on. And Chiron, the US is coming up to its Chiron return as well in some time. But what I mainly love to see is that the sun is in the seventh house. So seventh house is the house of relationships. It's partnerships in business. It's the other people. And the sun is in Cancer, and Cancer is very sensitive. Cancer is also the home. Okay, and heart is where the home is, I'm going to say. And remember that Jupiter also speaks of truth. Jupiter is expansion, growth, where home, where that feeling of being at home, feeling safe is concerned through, I'm going to say, through balance and harmony and truth, as we've also got Venus here, which Venus rules harmony, right? I think I just will show you one more thing before I end this. So what I have for you here is the progressed chart for the US. So now we've got the US's sun at the 26th degree of Gemini, and I've put Donald Trump's chart on the outside. Donald Trump's sun is at 22 of Gemini. Okay, now Donald Trump's sun, North Node, and Uranus is in the 7th house of the progressed US chart. Yeah, we've got Donald Trump's moon at 21 again, which is right opposite here. It's still in conjunction. What I've noticed was the ascendant for the US. We've got 29 degrees Scorpio, which is a very critical degree. Remember, Scorpio means transformation, change. Remember that the US is coming into a major transformation as it's having its Pluto return in a couple of years. Now, what else do we have here? I'm looking mainly at the conjunctions. So we've got the US on the inside, and on the outside we've got Donald Trump. So we've got Donald Trump's Pluto at 10 and the South Node of the US at 13. Interesting that it's at the 13th degree, which 13 does speak of Scorpio to me. Even though we've got Leo here, 13 means transformation for me. But look at this. I mean, Donald Trump's Pluto is at 10, and it's right opposite to the US's Pluto, which is at 12, and it's in retrograde, which means it's heading towards the 10th degree. So there's an opposition here. We've also got Trump's Mars at 26 of Leo, and the US's Regulus is at 26. Progressed Regulus is at 26 degrees in the 9th house, which has to do with truth. Remember that Mars is the warrior who wants to bring the truth, who wants justice. Remember that the 9th house is also the law. And this is someone that is remember that Mars likes to be in Leo. Okay, it rules Aries, but and it also rules Scorpio. So Mars is very strong here, and it's right on Regulus of the US. And we've also got 13 degrees midheaven. There's that 13th degree, which is in a semi-sextile here, difficult aspect to the US. sorry, well, yeah, the south node of the US, and in connection to the midheaven, this is asking for change. Something needs to transform here. Some karma needs to be let go of. And look at this. I mean, the US has got Pluto right on its north node, and it's in Aquarius, and Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So it's very, very amplified. And Mars is at 13 degrees and it's on Jupiter, you know, in its fourth house. Okay, let's just switch the charts around. And now we have Donald Trump on the inside. And of course, his rising is at 29.55. Remember what I said about the US. Again, Regulus is at his rising. It's conjunct his Regulus. Yeah, this is just a little bit of a different way of looking at things. So the transformation of the US is transiting his sixth house of work, service, health. And we've also got the midheaven of Trump conjunct the US's Chiron. So there is a very, very strong connection, here. Interesting that we've got Uranus here in the 11th, the Uranus of the US, in a difficult connection to Jupiter, Donald Trump's Jupiter. Okay, because we've got the cardinal signs Cancer and Libra. Okay, so this is some change that needs to happen here, obviously. And remember that Donald Trump's Jupiter and Chiron are connected as well as Juno here. So how we love and nurture and value others, okay, through balance, through social justice, through spiritual balance and harmonizing. We have the USA progress chart in the middle, and we've got Joe Biden on the outside, right? So how does Joe Biden tie in with the US's progressed chart? Joe Biden's Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Mars, all in Scorpio, are in the 12th house. So he's got a stellium of planets in the US's 12th house. And 12th house is the house of karma. It's hidden. It's also endings. Remember, it's also Scorpio. He's got his Sun in Scorpio right here in the 12th house. And his Venus is conjunct the rising of the US here. But Venus is in the 12th house. It's on his rising, but it's in the 12th house. And of course, his Venus is in opposition to the progressed Venus of the US. As you can see, they're right opposite each other. Now we've got the progressed Sun for the US. We have Joe Biden's Black Moon Lilith right on the Sun of the US. We have the vertex of Joe Biden on conjunct the Uranus of US. We have the south node of the US and Hygeia of Joe Biden conjunct. Exact. Remember, Hygeia means health, and it's on his south node, on the US's south node. South node is something karmic, something we will be dropping. And again, Hygeia is also opposite to Pluto. Uranus of Joe Biden on the Venus, progressed Venus of the US chart as well. So this is obviously in the 7th house. It's got to do with others. Remember that Uranus conjunct Venus, even though a conjunction is not easy, Uranus can be radical, wacky, eccentric, and Venus also rules money, remember. This can be fluctuations where money, through truth, through collaboration, through media is concerned. Remember that this can mean a revolution where the US's money and business is concerned, Mercury. And I do apologize for the pauses, but it takes time to analyze a chart. It's not something that you can always keep in your mind and remember. You know, it's interesting, Pluto right in opposition here with the US natal, progressed Pluto as well as Saturn. That's not an easy connection at all. To tell you the truth, I don't really see something here that is very important to mention. We've got a trine from the Saturn of the US, progressed Saturn of the US, to Joe Biden's Uranus in the 7th. Remember that Saturn is limitations, restrictions. Uranus is breaking those traditions, but it's also both Uranus and Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius is strong. Both Uranus and Saturn both rule Aquarius, but Saturn is the ancient ruler. It's the old way of doing things, whereas Uranus is the new way. It's new age, and it's much more fresh energy. Now, there is a trine here. There is a trine here, which trines are helpful, but I feel that do we go with the old or do we go with the new? That's the connection here. And I feel because we are moving into the age of Aquarius, I think that it's got more to do with that. It will be interesting as remember that for the US, they're at their progress chart is at 2933, which means soon the US will have rising Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So I do feel that the dark days of the US are ending very soon. So I've just flipped the charts over so that we could see now Joe Biden is on the inside here. We've got Joe Biden's North Node at 19 and 54. So, well, the US's Black Moon Lilith is on Joe Biden's midheaven. Not a good sign either. Okay, as you can see here, Joe Biden's, I should say the US's progressed Venus is in Joe Biden's 6th house, but it's on his Uranus. We also have Joe Biden's Hygeia in the fire line of the north and south nodes of the US, but his Hygeia is conjunct the south node of the US. Okay, so it's got to do with health matters. Wow. So one last thing that I just noticed is that Joe Biden's Hygeia is in a square to the Hygeia of the US. I think I will leave it there, everyone. I do hope that this gave you a bit of clarity about what's going on, what's to be seen, how the astrology speaks, because remember, astrology is mathematical. It's not someone's personal opinion. One can only say that this and this may happen. Things could work out totally different because remember that it's very hard to say exactly what's going to happen. We know how the energies are and what we're working with. But there are so many factors, so many things that one needs to look at. That's why we have to put everything on a scale and see which side is the strongest. And obviously, Donald Trump has got a stronger chance, a stronger chart in comparison to Joe Biden for these elections. So I will leave it there. I do hope, and I'd love to hear your comments on this. I hope that it was clear enough for you, and Thank you so much for your opinion on whether you wanted this analysis or not. Thank you so much for your kind words. And as I said, let's come from a place of love and not from a place of fear, because fear is something that stops us from moving forward. Okay, it's a time of courage. Mars is moving direct now. So it's a time of manifestation, taking that fire and working with it. And what I mean by that is fire is energy, using that energy in a wise way, not to do harm, obviously, but to move towards that divine plan, that divine path. And this is not only, this is not only, I mean, the energies we're working with now, they're not only about the elections, they're about what's going on in the world at large. So this is on a micro scale and on a macro scale. As there is difficult energies that we're dealing with on the outside of our lives, we're also dealing with those energies within our lives. So patience is necessary. We're nearly at the end. So sending you lots of love, lots of light, everyone. Many blessings, peace, and love. That's all we need to have in our hearts